Jennings' idea was to put this memorial here, and I helped in getting the text and the stone, and Rob Duffy organised the stone. I think it's a fantastic looking commemoration. That's the text. We also have a tree here as well, which is symbolising the blood of Drumanangle. So it's families past and present, and we're going to ask some notables. Stephanie can pick you out. I know it's we're going to ask the relations of Michael Joseph Kelly to come with present day parishioners, or Drumanangle parishioners, and just put some earth on this oak tree, which is again a lovely tree which symbolises, I suppose, birth, regrowth, and a cycle of life, death as well, obviously. So first of all, thank you very much for coming. It's going to be very simple. The parish priest is going to do everything.
As usual.
He doesn't know it yet, but he is. So first of all, I won't go a long spiel. I would just say that, as the stone says, Michael Joseph Kelly was born just over the hill over here. You can see the house on the hill is actually a later house. It was just below, opposite PJ Kelly's house down there. He was born to Hugh Kelly and Bridget Quinn, and he grew up, as most people do, in Moygownagh. He went to Carron National School, where his uncle, who was Master Brown, who lived over there, taught in the National School. And he grew up and he showed early promise, and his family were very ambitious. Hugh Kelly, his father, was a district councillor for the Home Rule Party, and he was very ambitious for all his college in Ballina. Again, unusual. Only the very, I suppose, successful or prosperous sons and daughters of, or sons of farmers and business people went to St Muiredagh's. When he was 20, he went down to he was enrolled in the Royal College of Surgeons in Dublin. This was an amazing thing to achieve coming from Moygownagh, coming from Drumanangle, to go in 1916 up there to enroll in the Royal College of Surgeons. His uncle previously had enrolled, but unfortunately had died. So before he qualified, so he's actually retracing his uncle's footsteps. So you can imagine all the hopes and dreams of his family were on this young boy's shoulders, as well as the parish, because that was a big thing for a parishioner to become actually a doctor. So in 1916, on Easter Saturday 1916, the papers came out that evening, or that morning, and by that evening everyone probably would have known from all around here, the neighbours, who were all generally related to him because the Kellys predominated in Drumanangle, and also further afield. So at Mass on Easter Saturday and in Easter Sunday morning, they would have gone around, shook Hugh Kelly's hand, congratulated him on his son being accepted into the Royal College of Surgeons. What they didn't know was that Easter week was obviously when Pádraig Pearse walked up the steps of GPO and proclaimed an Irish Republic. And whatever happened, and we don't know what was going through the young medical student's mind, he joined the rebellion. He survived. He ended up getting interned in England for a month, and he was shipped back to Drumanangle, where his father, who was a Home Rule Party, and the Home Rule Party, I don't know if you know at the time, they regarded the Rising as treacherous, as traitors. And Hugh Kelly, the father, had, unknowns to him, he didn't even know his son was in the rebellion, had actually said in the paper how he regarded everyone who rose up in Dublin that day as traitors. Little did he know that his son was one of them. So his son arrived here, he was probably kicked up and down the road, probably up and down the river for what he did, and sent back up to Dublin, told more than likely, go back to your studies, you're going to become a doctor, you're going to become a surgeon, get all that notions of rebellion out of your head, that's what you're going to do. So he went back up to Dublin, he lasted a year, and then, almost a year to the day, he walked into the British Army recruiting office and joined the British Army. A very unusual thing to do in 1917, because the tide had turned against, I suppose, the British rule in Ireland at that point. We don't know why he did. You can argue it was idealism, it was love of bloodlust, it was because he wanted to get training, because he could see ahead of the coming war. Who knows? But he joined the army and spent 2 years in France, where he earned the commendation for 2 medals. He then came back in 1919, at Christmas 1919, he came back here, and he joined the IRA. He ended up fighting against the very flag that he'd been saluting for the previous 2 years. He then joined the IRA and quickly rose up through the ranks and became one of the main commanders of the volunteers in this area. When he was caught up there, he was drilling, because obviously he'd learned how to drill, and of course you can imagine most of the farmers around here, his neighbours and friends, they didn't even have a gun, let alone how to drill. And he brought them back to bog back here, and at night you could hear the crack of the gun and the shouts as they were drilling by moonlight. And he went on then to help set up the court system. So this is a subversive court system against the courts that were run by the British authorities. He set up, they levied tax. So this is again Michael Collins, if you can remember the film Michael Collins, if you've seen it. The whole idea of setting up a parallel state, De Valera's parallel state, which basically wore the British down and into a ceasefire and ultimately the truce. However, when the treaty happened, most of the IRA in the west of Ireland, and Mayo in particular, went anti-treaty. And so did Michael Joseph Kelly. This is his 4th army that he had joined in his lifetime. He became a very adept commander, covering the general North Mayo area, in fact the Ballycastle battalion. And he became even well regarded by the Free State enemies. Eventually, the Free State caught up to him. And in February 1923, he was digging a hole in the bridge, a Belvin Bridge, which most of you know, along with a couple of other relatives of some people who may be here. They were the officers of the IRA, and they were all basically ambushed and caught. But he succeeded in escaping from the workhouse in Ballina. Yet the civil war petered out, and gradually, as it did, he got more and more disillusioned, as many of his colleagues and comrades did. So eventually, when the Republicans were obviously defeated, he did try and set up a local commune in Moygownagh. But in 1935, he decided, like many IRA did, to head to the States, writing down, "I'm never returning here ever again." And he never did. So he headed off with his family, with his 2 sisters and brother. Father Holman's written about his brother, Father Thomas. He went over to him. His 2 sisters, his brother Hugh, had gone over to Thomas and left, I suppose, his heartbroken family behind him. Probably a family who could understand him. I can imagine Hugh, who was a home rule politician, not understanding what his son stood for, or much less how he could engage with them. So he went over to America, but tragedy would follow this family, because very quickly Father Thomas died, his 2 sisters died, and his younger brother, who was here, who became a Garda, also died in Westport, leaving only 2 survivors, which was his brother Hugh and his sister Gertie. His brother Hugh went on to have a family, who Hugo is his son, and was here over the summer for the commemoration with John there in Carron National School. But today also Gertie's 2 sons are here, who will help us also, I think, if you don't mind, using the spade. Anyway, he was heartbroken, and as the years wore on, this man who could have been a doctor and could have been a surgeon ended up doing manual labour, moving from ranch to ranch, and eventually ended up in California, where after Pearl Harbor in 1942, he actually enrolled again into the American Army. This was his 5th army that he had enrolled in over his lifetime. But the man was broken, his life was full of regrets. He wrote home in very infrequent letters to Hugh, saying it should have been him that died, not his sister, and that only the good died young. Eventually, as time wore on, he distanced himself from his family, and even when they went looking for him, he avoided them. And Hugh was his only contact with the outside world in intermittent letters. And then one day, Father Hannick, who was a relative, was passing through Ballysadare, and he's dropped into Hugh Kelly's shop, because Hugh had sold up here and gone with his wife to a shop in Ballysadare. And Father Hannick was passing, and he happened to be talking about his brother, his long-lost brother. And Father Hannick wondered where he was, and felt he could never find him. And Hugh said, "Well, I have a letter here from him, so maybe you can trace him with that." And Father Hannick, who had been working out in Washington, came on him and literally went down and searched him out and found this old man who was penniless, in poverty, who had pretty much given up on life. And Father Hannick reconnected with him, listened to his stories, didn't believe half them, gave him money, put him in a suit of clothes, and a few months later, maybe a year later, he got a phone call to say that Michael Joseph Kelly had passed away in August 1966, the same month that he was born in. And that basically was the end of what we do with Michael Joseph Kelly. And in the decades since then, he disappeared. And I was lucky enough through my work in research in NUIG, I'm for those of you who probably, 1 or 2 who don't know, I'm doing this perennial researching, and I will write the book, I promise I will write the book, on history. And I came on Michael Joseph Kelly. This man fascinated me, and through help from his family, I was able to dig out more and more information. And I think it's important. I was asked, is he a hero? And I don't know. I don't know what you describe a hero as, but he's human. He's a man that 1916 changed his life forever. Because if he hadn't joined the rebels, who knows what he would have done? Would he have married? He'd become a doctor, a surgeon, he'd become well off. But he didn't. And as a result, his life changed irrevocably. And then he ends up, as I said, in a place called Redmond in Oregon. That's where he's buried. So I think he's kind of almost a symbol for ourselves to realise in life we pass up on opportunities, or maybe we have regrets. I think this certainly shows he never knew how much he was loved, because I've seen the letters that were written looking for him, and he never knew his nieces that were looking for him, his families that was looking for him, his colleagues that were looking for him, and he chose to spurn them all, and he never realised. And that's why I think in one small way we're doing is paying him back and showing him that he was one of us. He was loved, respected, he had flaws, God knows he had many. He had enemies. There's those in the Free State obviously who wouldn't have particularly liked his activities. But ultimately he was one of us, and I think it's important that we have a memorial today to him. And that is basically my story. I have some information I will pass around, but I wanted to kind of keep it as brief as I could. So, thank you. Oh, the US Army provide accommodation, very basic accommodation for penniless veterans, and he was actually, that's where he was, in a one-roomed, I still have a photograph of it, one-roomed little bedsit, and that's when Father Hannock came on him. But Father Hannock was called down to the funeral, and this is a man who everyone had forgotten about, couldn't find him, or rather, and yet at the funeral there was a tricolour by his coffin, and there also was a cross. And so, Father Hannock brought that cross back to his family, and it's still in Ireland today. And this is an etching of the same cross, so I thought it'd be nice to put it on the stone as that. So that's basically my spiel. I'm going to now ask Father Hoban to take my place and say a few words. And also we're going to have the tree, I suppose, formalised in the soil by the relatives of Michael Joseph Kelly, and also there's quite a number of relatives. Just to let you know, the Jenningses are related to him. Noel Kelly obviously bears the Kelly name. For those of you, there's also these other famous Kellys who live just over the road. They're not related. No relation whatsoever. But they're very definitely parishioners. They're very definitely proud Moygownagh people and proud Drumanangle people. So I think as many as possible should join in this. So. Well, let's get our tree planted and move on from there. Okay, so thank you. And the Hegarty family, my apologies, who have and the Jennings family who are contributing to the cost of this, because obviously this isn't cheap. So we appreciate it. I don't know if you know that. I don't know. You know that. I might ask you all if you might just say just a few words. First of all, to explain, Gertie Hegarty was Michael Joseph Kelly's youngest sister. He loved her a lot, even though he never said it directly maybe to her in latter years. But in some of the letters written back to Hugh, he did ask, definitely are related to Michael Joseph through his grandfather. His grandfather, a few decades ago, over 100 years ago, there was, most of Drumanangle was actually all Kelly. And your Noel's ancestors would have been related to Michael Joseph Kelly's grandfather, Michael, and your grandmother was similarly related to Michael Joseph Kelly's grandfather. So that's just to let you know the connection, in case you thought it just snuck in. And, I'm not any relation at all. So if I could ask you to say a few words, I won't put you in the spot, but just to thank you very much for coming.
Well, on behalf of the Hegarty family anyway, and the Kellys as well, I'd like to thank Liam for all the work he's put into this. Fair play to you, Liam. And I got the first call, I think, 2 years ago. I was just telling Liam before we started here today that I was talking to a very renowned, esteemed historian last week, Dermot Ferreter, and I was telling him about this. And Dermot said, "This is fascinating, I must hear more about this." So I said, he's the man. And thank you, Stephanie and the Jennings family. It's been, I would say, a long, long time since I was in the Jennings household. I was just saying to Peg, it's a long time since we were here before. Myself and Declan used to love coming down here all those years ago, down to Moygownagh. And we were very proud today, really proud, more proud than I can say, to be here standing at this monument to our Uncle Michael. So, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Jennings family, and thank you, Liam.
To tell you that there is refreshments being served, courtesy of warm refreshments, courtesy of Peg Jennings. Thank you very much, Peg, and her family. Thank you very much, family. I also have in my bag there, I have some information you might. I didn't give it out because you wouldn't be listening to me if you would be only reading it. So I have a couple of pages. It's extracts from my book coming out. I will be taking that Kelly, but Noel Kelly, who is probably gone into his house.
Yeah,
Dead right.
please.
Noel, so yeah, it's gone for refreshment. Noel will carry the Kelly name in Drumanangle, that original Kelly name of that. But still a great name, even if you're off a different Kelly branch. If anyone questions, I'll be in the house, perished, but you can talk to me inside there. I have some information here as well to give to you.